Hello, everybody. Very sorry. My shift as an Uber driver kind of went into overtime today. So, but the two Ballston boys that were shuttled are very grateful. I will call this meeting of the Salisbury Central School Board of Education to order at 5:32. And the first order of business this evening is recognition of those that contribute to Salisbury Central School. And we have some esteemed guests with us tonight who are leaving. And we're honoring a bunch of retirees tonight, more than I think I've ever seen walk out. It's like the mass exodus this year. And in all cases, very sad. So if you will indulge me, everyone, I'll just go through some names and some facts. And there's a bunch of, as is our custom, there's a bunch of books that will be donated in the name of the retirees to the Salisbury Central School Library. And I will be presenting those to the actual individuals in person, in hand, when we have our little ceremony in a week or two. But just to let you know that there's 6 individuals that we're saying goodbye to. And these people cumulatively represent 169 years of service to our school. That's quite a contribution. So first there's Sharon Russell. Sharon is a middle school resource teacher, and she began working, she's kind of been in and out, but she began working for Region 1 Pupil Services in 1993, I believe, and first came to the Salisbury Central School for the 95-96 school year as a teacher assistant in pre-K. Came back to Salisbury Central School as a middle school resource teacher from 2004 to 2007, and then returned finally for our 2021-2022 school year again as a middle school resource teacher. And you will be missed. You will be missed. And the book, I'm going to try and work the camera here. The book that will be donated in your name is called A Gift for Nana by Lane Smith.
That's
Great.
Wonderful.
And I have your copy, which I will be happy to hand to you with a hug and a smile in a week or so. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, the next two individuals are not able to join us tonight, so I'll be a little briefer, but Fran Goodsill is a school psychologist. She began working for Region 1 Pupil Services in 1989 and came to Salisbury Central in 1993 and has been here for the last 29 years. And the book that we are going to be installing in the library in her name is called This is a School. Words by John Shue and the illustrations by Veronica Miller Jameson. And Miss Mary Bush, again, not here today, but she is an elementary school resource teacher, and she's one of those faces that you see everywhere in the building at any given point in time, it seems like. She's a moving target. She was hired by Region 1 in 1988 and has worked with us at Salisbury Central School for the past 34 years. And the book that we are going to be installing in her name is called Aaron Slater, Illustrator by Andrea Beatty, and the illustrations by David Roberts. And now we get into our long haulers. If everybody else didn't do enough for us, long enough. Christine Werner is our middle school math teacher. She came to Salisbury Central School in 1999 and has taught in middle school for 23 years. She's also served as coordinator for at least the last decade. And she has taught, I know, at least two. I don't know if you've seen Vincent, Miss Werner, but I know that she lit fires under both Dominic and Nico in my family, and has been kind of just a great resource for math heads in our school for a very, very long time. And we will miss you, Miss Werner. And the book that is being installed for you is called Just Help. And it is How to Build a Better World by Sonia Sotomayor. You may have heard of her. Illustrated by Angela Dominguez. And then we have Miss Lisa McClave, who I was fortunate enough to have as the first kindergarten teacher of my first kindergartner at Salisbury Central School, and made my family's, transition from living in the city to coming up here just magical. I don't know how else to put it. And anybody that knows her, she's a very magical presence in our building. And I don't know how Stephanie's going to replace you. And I don't think it can be, but hopefully we'll find somebody with as much spirit and spark as you have, because, accepting those kids into our building and into education and learning and socialization and all the magical things that you have to do, as well as teach them how to read and read, write, and count. I'm your hugest fan. But here's the fact. You came to Salisbury Central School in 1985, and you've been a teacher here for 37 years. You began as a pre-K kindergarten teacher. You moved to grade 2 for 9 years. Did not know that. Then you took a little sabbatical in 98 and 99 to complete your 6-year program in education technology. And when you returned, you went back to kindergarten, where you have been for the last 23 years, making your magic. So thank you, Lisa. It's been a privilege knowing you.
Well, thank you. And thank you all, because teaching, this is just, I couldn't have been in a better place. I mean, I always say this is more like my second home than my job because I love it so much. So I thank you all for all the support that you've given us through all the years. I
And all it
greatly
took was twin grandbabies to draw you away from us.
appreciate it. I know that was, yeah, that's what did it.
All right. As long as it wasn't something I said.
Yeah, not at all.
The book that we are going to install for you is called A Letter from Your Teacher on the Last Day of School. And that is written by Shannon Olson and illustrated by Sandy Sonke.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And finally, this evening, we have Miss Trudy Allen. How are you, Trude? Where are you? Oh, there you are. I see you. She's been our library and media specialist. She began at Salisbury Central School in 1980 and has been teaching with us for a total of 41 years. Outside of running a library and media, she does like everything else with like 12 hats on her hooks. 8th grade trip coordinator for many years. She runs that ski program with aplomb every year. It's one of my favorite things that we do for our kids. She's been a yearbook advisor for many, many years, and she's also served as the school's webmaster and social media manager. And I know that she's going to exhale not having to deal with the school with the ski program, because I know all those moving parts that she's had to juggle so many years. But it's always been a pleasure to roll up to that mountain and see her face there and watch her kind of work her magic and get all the ducks in a row, as they say. So thank you very much, Trudy.
Thank you, David.
And the book that we are installing is I Wish You Happiness. And that's by Michael Wong and Anna Barchvili.
Thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure teaching at Salisbury Central. I have to agree with Lisa. It's like a second home.
Yeah.
It's going to be really hard to leave everybody.
Yeah. It's gonna be hard not to see your faces. You know what I mean, guys? It really is. It's just, thank you. Honor and a privilege,
Yes.
my friends. Honor and a
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
privilege. Bye. All right. Moving
Can
on.
I just, David, can I just say
yeah.
that we plan on you plan to hand the books out to them live and in person
Yes,
at our end of the year assembly on June 16th.
correct. Exactly.
Thank you.
Next order of business is approval of our minutes from our previous meeting, which was April 25th. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes as submitted? Thank you, Jackie. Do I have a second? Thank you, Kevin and or Natalia. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted for April 25th regular meeting, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Fantastic. Thank you very much. Ms. Boots, you have a financial report for us?
Yeah, not a whole lot to report. If you look at the detail pages of the report that I sent out, you'll notice that there are, several lines that now that we're approaching the end of the year are over what we budgeted. Some we anticipated would be over and some we didn't. Our substitute line and the educational salaries line is over. It's been a very challenging year for substitutes, and Patty has worked her magic and come up with some very unique ways of filling those vacancies. And Stephanie has brought in a few people towards the end of the year just to be extra staff in hand to fill in those holes. So we've definitely had a lot of people in the building covering vacancies, and that's why that line is over. We also have a long-term sub for Melissa Moore, who's out on parenting leave, and that's expensed out of that line as opposed to the certified staff line. So even though that has helped push that substitute line over, the certified salaries line will come in under, so it will balance each other out. We talked about the assistant principal line. There was just the decision to expend John's entire salary out of that line. So we'll also see a surplus in the certified staff line that reflects the fact that we're paying for the whole thing out of the assistant principal line. And in next year's budget, we've put all of John's salary in that assistant principal line. The pension line is over a little bit. That's kind of an estimate. We never know. It's based on people's actual gross salary. So depending on overtime, other things like that, we can be a little bit off. That's why that line's over. The summer school line's been over all year. ASOP has been over all year. Auditing has been over all year. Insurance sports have been over all year. The internet line, we under budgeted just a little bit. With all the new devices in the building, we're using a little more bandwidth than we anticipated. So we're paying a little bit more, and we've adjusted for that for next year's budget. On the third page, our propane that we purchased for our outside sheds is over. I think that's a timing thing because we filled the tank at the beginning of the year and a couple of times since, as opposed to starting the year with a full tank. Custodial and maintenance, we know that's over. That Cintas contract we've talked about. The meeting line is over. Again, that's based on, how many meetings we have, how many people attend, the professional development, some things Board of Ed has done. And then, I always talk about the repair lines. Usually the site repair and the lower building repair lines kind of carry the upper building repair. I think this year we're going to be over for the total repairs. We've had those sewer issues in the upper building, which caught us by surprise. But I don't think it's going to end up being a terrible situation at the end of the year. I did my first shot at a projection for our budget surplus for this year, and I think we're going to be good. I think we're going to probably be in the neighborhood of 200,000. Some of it will depend on how much we reimburse from the lunch program for those salaries in the cafeteria. But I do think we're going to be just fine, and I'll give a more updated report at the June meeting when I have a better sense of where we'll be. I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Anybody? But we still look to be in good shape overall, right? With only 75% of our expected expenditures
Yes.
spending.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy as to where we are. And when I do the report in June, I'll also give you an update on the capital reserve. So we know if we start talking about a surplus number, how much that's going to add to what we've already got in the capital reserve account. But I feel very confident we're in good shape.
Great. Thank you, Sue. Any questions for Sue? Concerns? Hearing none, we will move on to written communication to the Board of Ed. I only have one letter, and sadly it is a resignation. So let me just read it to you. It's from Kylie Jacobs, who's a third grade teacher, who's been with us for a while. She's a Region 1 product. I think she went to Kent Center and then Hoosey, and then came to us as in her process of becoming a teacher, as a classroom assistant. Anyway, dear Salisbury Central School Board of Education, it is with a heavy heart that I am writing this letter to inform you of my resignation from Salisbury Central School as of the end of the 2022 school year. As some of you may know, a few years ago, I relocated to West Hartford to be closer to my family. While I have managed the commute for the last 2 years, it has been difficult, and I have chosen to take a teaching position closer to my home. Salisbury Central School has played a significant role in my life for the last 5 years. In this building, I have developed my teaching expertise, built wonderful relationships, and worked with many remarkable students. I will be forever grateful for my time at Salisbury Central. It's hard to put into words what makes Salisbury Central so special, but if you've worked here, had a child who attended the school, or even just visited the building, you know it is truly a special place. It is a bittersweet feeling to be writing this letter, as I will miss my colleagues and the students immensely, but I'm excited to be continuing my teaching career and take all I've learned with me. Thank you very much for the mentorship and memories. Sincerely, Kylie Jacobs. So I think that might be reflected later on in the meeting when when we're looking at recommendations to hire. But she's been a great kind of presence, albeit for not an extended period of time, but the time she's been here, I think has been enriched us greatly, and I wish her great luck. So that's it for written communication. Any public comment on agenda items this evening? Hearing none. We'll move on to regional and Board of Ed committee reports. I don't think Mr. Moon is able to join us tonight. So I'll jump ahead to Board of Ed building and grounds update. Not a lot to do, although Steph, maybe, I don't know if you want to talk about some of the juggling of rooms and movement of things that we're doing. The only big ticket thing is I mentioned to you that there was a plumbing issue. There's now 2 plumbing issues, which Sue kind of alluded to. We basically have really antiquated mains coming out of carrying waste out of the K-3 wing. There's 2 of them. One comes, that meet at a right angle in the parking circle. They both need to be addressed. We had planned to address one of them, which was the one that was raising its head most uglily. Is that a word? But I think that what we're going to attempt to do is get an engineer and address both of them, because they're similar problems. They're just old, antiquated clay pipes, basically, that have just fallen into terrible disrepair and need to be replaced. And part of the replacing, of course, is the digging up of the brand new concrete and pavers that we put out and curbing that we put out in front. So it's kind of a bigger project, and we think that we can get through this next school year managing it the way we have been, which is by, on a regular basis, flushing out those mains, and get us to next summer where we've kind of got all our ducks in a row, and hopefully we'll, I don't know if it'll cost us any less, but I certainly think that it'll be less disruptive, and it'll be easier to put everything back when we're taking it apart once and putting it down once, as opposed to doing it in 2 stages. So that's our plan right now. We're still waiting to get an engineer to actually look at it and vibe it for us. But that's the only big ticket item I have. Steph, you want to talk about some of the moving?
I think that I think I brought this up last meeting maybe, but we are looking at relocating extras. I think we talked about this. At this point, we're targeting what is currently our computer lab, because it's a big space and it has outdoor access easily. And the new lower lobby area then is accessible to them as sort of a spillover or play space. I'm working with David Hill from Extras to make sure that that can work for them. They're calling in their licensing person from the state, but we do at this point plan to go forward with that. That just means that the computer technology classes will still be taught in that room because Extras is an after school thing, but the computer technician and the outside services, we will relocate them to another space in the building. And then that will allow us to put EK up in the section where kindergarten and pre-K is, so that we can have like a true early childhood section of the building. And that will provide some fluidity for students between EK and K, which will be good. And then there'll be some other little classroom shifts just because we're trying to sort of get back from the COVID. Some moves were COVID moves, and just to accommodate, right now we have 3 4th grades, but we would only have 2 4th grades and that kind of thing. So, I'll probably have some more information in June about that.
The most of the rest of it's just normal kind of room shuffling. Biggest kind of shift in paradigm and creating an early education wing up there I think is very exciting. And I think the staff that does that work are very excited about being able to collaborate in a sort of a shared extended space. So,
yes.
It was a very good idea, Ms. Major.
Thanks.
I think. We'll see.
I think we give credit to Ms. Diamond for that. I think she came to me and said, like, I would really like to get down there, and it's never been possible. And so we've just been, then our building and grounds team has been trying to think of, okay, how could we make it possible? I love to think that nothing is impossible. So this seems like something that we can do.
Yeah. So any questions about building and grounds or sewage? No, hearing none. Okay, ABC committee update. Not much to talk about. We do have a meeting this week. We're just talking about our 7,000 policy that governs us, and some questions about how we add new programs. There's sort of a little bit of a lack of guidance in it, so we're going to kind of explore that as a discussion and see if it goes anywhere. We are, again, in the process of interviewing candidates for the assistant superintendency, and we have our, I believe, final meeting next week, and so hopefully we'll have something to report to you after that. Any questions about ABC? Hearing none. We move on to recommendations to hire. Dr. Fellows, you want to lead us in that, or Ms. Major?
Sure. Steph, you can jump in.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, we have 4 for you tonight. So I don't know how maybe we should do it in grade order. Does that work? Oh, Steph, go ahead.
5.
Oh,
I think we have, but I think I have 7.
I only have.
No. We don't have 7. Let's not get carried away. I'm fairly certain it's 5.
All right. You could
Okay.
You could jump in then with whoever I forget.
There
Steph?
were two in the original packet I sent out last Friday, and then today I sent out an additional 3.
Okay. All right, we'll see which one I don't.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, thanks, Steph. That is good.
Oh, no,
So,
I'm sorry, Scott. I'm counting pages, not documents. My bad. I may have doubled down on you.
oh.
Sorry.
Okay, let's try it and we'll see. We're gonna give this we'll give it a shot. And grade order probably makes some sense. So one of our recommendations for hire is a new kindergarten teacher. Her name is Rachel Insillo. She had fantastic references. Everybody that we talked to was raving about her as a teacher and frankly, just as a human being. She apparently is one of the nicest people that we'll ever meet, which is fantastic. She is coming to us with a lot of experience. She's currently a reading interventionist, or maybe even an everything interventionist at the school where she is. And she really just wanted to get back into her own classroom. So Salisbury Central seemed to be the best place for her. And we would, I guess, I don't know if you want to vote on all of these at once, David, or if you want to go one at a time, but we would recommend hiring her at the 6th year degree step 13, which is $99,573 to start in the fall in kindergarten.
I would say, Scott, that we should go through all of them and then circle back. And if it has any concerns about any of the candidates, and hopefully come all together or vote on the ones that we are all in agreement on.
David?
Yes.
That'd be good.
Stephanie, I don't know if you want to jump in here, but we watched her do her teaching lesson, and her ability to develop relationships with kindergarten students in a very short period of time was quite remarkable. And what she was paying attention to in terms of what they were doing was precisely in line with what we're looking for in a very strong teacher, in terms of what they are understanding about language, how they're synthesizing information. She made sure that she heard from every student in the room in a meaningful way in the space of 20 minutes. So we don't often, we always pick the best when we hire, but the best isn't always coming in as capable as this person is. So we have a very strong feeling about her. Stephanie, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to say, David mentioned that there is no replacing Lisa McClave, right? We know that. However, I feel so excited to have found someone with the experience, with this literacy background. And yes, there's something about the demeanor. I think it's going to be as good of a replacement as we could get, at knowing that that Lisa's shoes are, hard to fill. But I think it's going to be I feel really excited about it. So.
Great.
Perfect. So the second recommendation that we're making is for 3rd grade. That is Julianne O'Connell, who is currently student teaching at Salisbury Central, or has just finished her student teaching at Salisbury Central, and has been there as a para for some period of time. She has an MA in elementary education and a BA in history from New York University. She also had outstanding recommendations from the people, mostly with whom she worked, including the principal of the school, which is fantastic. And but because she's a new teacher, she would be coming in with us at MA Step 1, beginning next year for 3rd grade. Steph, anything that we want to add?
Yeah, she finishes her student teaching actually on Wednesday.
Okay.
And she's been student teaching in 3rd grade, so that sets her up well to do 3rd grade next year. And yeah, she was just one of those great finds. They moved here from, I think it was New Jersey, and joined the community, joined the school, first as children that go to school, and then she came and applied for a para job, said she'd always wanted to be a teacher, hadn't sort of finished that step of her life, and then came and shortly into being a para came to me and said, I know now that I want to teach, so I'm going to get it done. And she moved through the program very quickly, and we sort of could see right away that she would be a fantastic teacher. She's always stepping up and learning and growing. She's been mentored this year by Jen Mitchell, who we know is a great 3rd grade teacher. So I think that I think she's gonna be fantastic. And she's got plenty to learn, having just come out of student teaching. But again, Jen will be a great guide for her. We have great supports, so I'm not worried about that. She's shown that she can learn very fast.
Great.
And we would say, Steph, I guess with her as well, we had the opportunity to see her teach twice. And in both cases, the committee of people that were observing her left thinking she was in good shape, that she would make an excellent teacher. And yeah, it was just a question of what grade she was really going to go to. Third person that I have is, let's see, we're going to try to go in order. So the third one would be Jeffrey Beck, who will be middle school ELA beginning in the fall. He is apparently moving back here from Massachusetts, and it had grown up in the area, so is in the process of moving back. He has degrees from Boston College in curriculum and instruction and secondary education and English. He is also a relatively new certified teacher, so he'll be beginning at MA2, and that's $52,921. And Steph, I was not at that teaching interview, so I'll throw to you.
Sure. I think this is another great find. He did grow up in this area and is looking to come back here and settle in and make roots here, which I think is what we always want. And the way he was in the classroom was fantastic. Again, you get this short time to be with the kids, and middle school kids can be a tough crowd. Some of you know, because you have middle schoolers. They don't just take to everybody, and yet they took to him right away. And one of the most impressive things that I remember seeing was that he would ask them to say their name when he called on them. And then the next time he could say their name. I was so impressed that he just put them all in his head immediately and just really made it personal in a 30-minute lesson. So he's got great energy, and he worked through some really great informational text with them that was meaningful, and he clearly understood what would be relevant to middle schoolers. So yeah, I think this is very exciting. And I know that Tracy Dowd is thrilled to have this new partner and is really looking forward to mentoring him too.
And speaking of big shoes to fill, Jen Segal.
Well, right. Yes, that's a tough one. Luckily, she's not leaving us, right? She'll just be up the hill some of her day. But yes.
Okay, and I got out of order. I'm sorry, I lost my order. We also have a 4th grade teacher, Becky Wilsack, who has been at Salisbury Central, again, doing a variety of jobs over the last couple of years, long-term sub positions, and we also had the opportunity to see her twice and see her teach in 2 different grade levels, and decided after her most recent teaching experience that we felt she would be a really good fit in 4th grade. She, her colleagues in that grade are very happy to have her join their group, have said that she has made tremendous contributions to their work already, in the work that she's been doing with Barbara Carr in particular. And Barbara, I think, is probably going to take her under her wing. And again, Becky's done fantastic work and is again a local person who's coming back to teach at Salisbury Central. It's awesome.
And just a reminder, Becky is currently teaching 4th grade for us because she did her student teaching here, and now she's the long-term sub in 4th grade. So she is going to also be being able to stay in the grade that she's in. And before that, she did a year for us in 5th grade as a long-term sub, and she did a part year for middle school math. So we have seen a lot of Becky and been waiting for her to finish her student teaching. And, you know, I know she's wanted to make a home here for a long time. So I think that this is very exciting. And she also, I don't know if you all know her personally, but she brings a fantastic energy too. She comes from a theater background and definitely brings that to the classroom. She can make any subjects feel pretty exciting. So the 4th grade is lucky to have her. And yes, Barb, I think you're seeing a pattern that we have these great, strong people that are partnering with our new people. And I think that that will be great.
And the final one that I have, hopefully this is the final one, is a new position, the K-8 wellness teacher / counselor. And the person we're recommending to the board is Jade Colling, who is currently at Salisbury Boys School, doing a variety of things, and is really interested in getting back into working with younger children and younger students. She applied for another position last year and was very close to signing paperwork, and then for whatever reason, some things came up. So when she was available, or this position became available and she was available, we kind of jumped to get her in quickly and to get her signed. So we had her do a lesson that was fantastic with our 3rd grade class. Steph, was that 3rd? Yes. Yep. So we had her do a lesson on characteristics of friends with our 3rd graders, and she did a fantastic, really, really cool activity that she had planned to go a little bit longer, that would have involved them making cards that describe characteristics of friends with tissue paper and with logs that describe how you keep your friendship on fire. And it was absolutely fantastic. We loved it when we saw it afterwards at our post observation reflection. So she is very excited. When I spoke to her on the phone to offer her the position, she was excited beyond belief, which is good to know, that you're getting someone who is that happy and that excited to be coming to Salisbury Central. So she will join us at, I believe we said 6th year step 2. I'm trying to scroll quickly. So 6th year step 2, and we'll be in, we're hoping we'll start first thing in the fall.
Yes. And Jade was actually, before my time, Jade was with us she did her counseling internship here with Donna. So
Wow.
Great.
And I guess at that
Fabulous.
time she impressed everybody very much. And after meeting her now and seeing her lesson, I saw why. But I also, as excited as Scott reports that Jade was, I wish I could show you what Donna has been like, thinking of the prospect of sharing the counseling responsibility for one, and then having, like she said, that working with her is like her dream. She says already they're going to be the dynamic duo, and they're just so excited to be able to share the classes and share the one-on-one counseling, and maybe get to people even faster. I know that's been on Donna's mind as the social emotional needs have grown. So yes, I feel like again we have another strong person that can mentor our new person. It's all very exciting. Thinking of having 5 people to bring to you all at this meeting, I feel like this is one of the most exciting meetings we've had.
I agree, Steph. And we worked hard Friday to get them all ready to go. So that was fun. And the other, Steph mentioned a theme at one point. I think there's another theme as well, and that is they all have some connection to Salisbury Central before they're now going to become teachers at Salisbury Central. So that's really exciting and sort of speaks to the school.
And I'm glad you mentioned the hard work, because really a lot of the hard work falls on Scott and Jill and their office. So I appreciate their work. They've spent a lot of time with us. And also every one of these has a committee of teachers that are part of it. And then that means giving up time for first rounds and giving up time for second rounds and second round interviews and debriefs. And, it's a big joint effort to make this happen. So thank you to everyone who participated.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know Jade just because she was where her husband has taught one of my boys, and she was my oldest son's college advisor actually this past year. And so I've had, I think she's a fantastic person. I'm glad to see her joining our squad. Does anybody else have any concerns or questions about any of the candidates put forth? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve these recommendations to hire as a group. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you for second, Natalia. Thank you for third, Tom. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving these recommendations to hire as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? You have your crew, Miss Major.
Thank
Do
you
it what
all.
you will. Thank you, Dr. Fellows. Thank you, Ms. Carr.
It's like commentary that it's tough to fill talent slots in any industry. This is impressive that, match Phil, get them going.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now
Yeah,
we
well-
just are going to hope for some same success in our last remaining things. And I think the only one that we'd be bringing to, that's a certified to bring to you, is our middle school science. So we're going to hope that this good vibe carries us to that. And then we bring something in June.
In the meantime, burn some incense on that, my
Yeah.
fellows, because we need it all. We need whatever we can get to draw them in. It's a tough spot to fill. Fantastic. Next is a little bit of policy work. So our second read of some Board of Ed policies, starting with 5118.1, homeless students. Oh, I have these all out of order. Oh, no, I don't. So we had a couple of kind of minor tweaks to it, I believe, as far as inserting our name, et cetera, et cetera. Were there any other big changes we made, Sue?
The homeless students?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was distracted. The things that we talked about at the last meeting was about keeping the the optional language in. And then at that point in the conversation, it was decided to table it until this meeting.
Right.
I think so people could have a chance to read it a little more carefully and decide how they felt about it. So
Where we left off, yeah.
yeah, so I don't know if people have had a chance to do that and have any thoughts on how they feel about it and whether it looks good or not.
And the additional language starts on 3 or 4, 4 and 3.
This is, everything that's in this policy is pretty much laid down in statute, so. Don't know that there's much,
That we want to tweak.
yeah.
Does anybody have any concerns or?
And I think I mentioned the last time, we have ample resources to help us with these cases as they arise. I work with an attorney, and then Ed Advance has a resident expert who is available all the time if we have questions, or can help if it's a homeless situation that's within our REST, can help facilitate the dialogue between schools. So we're very well supported in that regard.
I'm just looking at the draft that I shared at the April meeting, and the optional language actually begins right after the very first paragraph. And
So it's either like very cut and dry and non-directive or,
Yeah, it pretty much includes everything through H.
Yeah.
And then there were a few pieces that were not included or were not also found in the Region 1 policy, but I think the Region 1 policy is not as updated as this CABE sample policy.
It
Right.
will be audited this fall, so it will probably be recommended that this is the policy that Region 1 adopts.
Right.
any questions or concerns about this policy? Is there a motion to approve the policy as submitted?
So moved.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you for second, Natalia. Any further discussion or concern? All those in favor of approving that policy number 5118.1 homeless students as submitted, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you. Are you abstaining, Liz? Or was that, you were just flicking? Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
So
Uh,
Liz, what's your vote?
I'm sorry. I feel like I just got here. I can abstain. That's fine.
Okay.
No, you don't have to. If you heard the discussion, you didn't miss
I
anything.
didn't really. It's okay.
All right.
Okay.
So we'll let you off the hook on that one.
Thank you.
Next is policy number 5123, which is promotion, acceleration, and retention, or promotion and retention, as we've retitled it. And this I know that we were concerned about. Well, it wasn't concerned. It was whether or not we use this alternate language to replace the previous paragraphs. Do you have a
And we
recommendation?
We
Yeah.
didn't know where the alternate language was supposed to, where it started and where it ended. And so when I asked CABE,
Yeah.
they said it's either everything that precedes the alternate language is the first version, or just the alternate language would be the second version.
My vote would be the first version, but I mean, I would say that I would think that first version, the top version of it, is more in line with what we're actually doing. Is that correct, Steph and Lise? I mean, it's not that the other one doesn't direct us the same way. It's just a little bit sort of vaguer.
Yeah, I think philosophically, certainly a lot that's in that first is in line with the way we think about moving students from grade to grade.
Right.
Whereas
And-
the second one gives the board and the administration more discretion.
What would your recommendation be, Miss?
I kind of like the first one, but I just think it's helpful again for when you are in those transition period of leadership transition, or even if it's something that you don't deal with very often as an existing principal. It's one of those things where it's very helpful to have a little bit more information, because these are sensitive situations sometimes when you're working with families. And so sometimes the policy provides you with a little bit more context and backing. You can say, look, this is within the realm of our policy, and this is why we have to talk about this in these terms. So that's kind of why I like the first one.
Anybody else have any suggestions about it? Concerns? So yeah, I would entertain a motion to approve this policy as presented, omitting the alternative language. Thank you, Tom. Have a second. Thank you, Natalia. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving policy number 5123, promotion and retention as submitted, omitting the alternative language, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you very much. And then we have a second read of policy number 5125, student records.
I had a conversation with Patty Stevens today. I had given her this whole packet to go through, just to kind of see what her take was on it, because she is the registrar and oversees student records. She said it was as interesting reading as it could be. She did say she learned some things by reading it. She thought it was, what we're currently doing is right in line with what's described in the policy and in the regulation. She said the forms, there was one form that we don't currently have this type of version of. We use something else, but even the forms were things that she had seen before and that she has been using. So she felt pretty confident that this whole packet would be very easy to implement and to follow in her job as the registrar.
Great.
She didn't see anything that concerned her.
Fantastic. Okay, any concerns about it from the board? I would certainly entertain a motion to approve this policy number 5125, student records confidentiality, as submitted. Thank you, Natalia. Do I have a second? Thank you, Jackie. All those in favor of approving policy, any further discussion? All those in favor of approving policy number 5125, student records confidentiality, as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Stevens, and abstention. Final second read is a policy number 5131.7, weapons and dangerous instruments.
The only change that was discussed at the last meeting was in the second paragraph, the last sentence. We put in specifically designed for and or presently capable of causing death or serious injury. That was the only change that was suggested and was made on this version.
Got it. So any further concerns or suggestions? Policy number 5131.7, weapons and dangerous instruments. I just like saying that. So in Congress, what we do. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve this policy as submitted. Thank you, Jack, and or Natalia for a second, and Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving policy number 5131.7, weapons and dangerous instruments, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you very much. And now we move on to first reads, and this comes out of the region-wide policy committee. First is policy number 6141.52, challenging curriculum policy. Lisa, do you want to put this in place for us? As far as
Sure.
Yeah.
This policy is a result of the recent legislative session to ensure that equity and social justice in terms of all students having access to any kind of enrichment or accelerated courses, and that we are required to, which we do, I think, in all of our schools, look at each student's performance and identify those who may need a little, who may need some more enrichment, I guess, maybe in their learning, and to make sure that all students have access to that. So, and the intention is, this is meant to go hand in hand with the student success plans that start in 6th grade. for kids to start imagining what their life might look like after high school and what kind of classes they may want to take to pursue their interests, not to track them into any one path, but certainly if they want to explore different languages, different science classes, more advanced math classes, that we start to offer those opportunities within the school setting. And that's to start, it is 8th grade and move through high school.
So the only changes that we made, amongst ourselves in our internal policy committee was that moved 9th grade, obviously, put in Salisbury Central where it was appropriate. And what else did we do at the end? We added something, didn't we?
The
I
last
don't think so.
paragraph, we kind of.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we just kind of work doctored that the last half of that last paragraph, I think. Right? Oh, because, as opposed to talking about college, we're talking about their next step, which is high school.
So what I'm going to do is take these changes to all the schools, which is what we were trying to avoid by having the region-wide policy committee. But this is a good addition. So I want to make sure that this gets into the policy with all of our schools.
Region.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any concerns? I mean, obviously we'll revisit this, but does anybody have any concerns? Yeah, go ahead, Natalia.
Yes, I just want to ask you guys, do we have resources to provide these enrichment classes? What I feel that we didn't have before those classes because we didn't have number of students to provide, and especially if Lisa is now going to take it to the different smaller schools. That's my concern. Do you have resources to track the honors students to a separate thing?
Well, I think that's a good question, Natalia. We don't always have it in terms of boots on the ground. I mean, and for us, it doesn't specifically say what courses. So right now we have to do what we can. So in the middle school, for example, for us, advanced courses would be Spanish because students can land in the high school with Spanish 1 and algebra because they can land in the having taken algebra and land in the high school starting algebra 2. So, but in the past, we were able to add even more to that because students who wanted to, when the high school schedule didn't used to change so that the classes met at the same time every day, we were able to send students to advanced math classes. And when that stopped, we were then able to do that online with Johns Hopkins. But now the state in its infinite wisdom has said that students in grades K through 8 can't have access to remote learning until 24-25. So I need to call the talent office and say, do you know that you've actually pushed us backwards compared to what we used to be able to do for students who very, capably did. And then we had a student one year who I think did the Stanford online courses for English and math in the middle school. And so, I just have to check with the curriculum office, with the chief academic officer to see if we can still continue to do that. Because right now, that's all we would be able to offer at the middle school level.
And we do have that need coming up. We have students that will be needing geometry next year. So we're working on those details right now.
Great.
I have a question about the wording in the identification process, which includes a couple of things, including referrals from parents and students. Is that other students are
That would be the students themselves.
Okay.
Is that not clear in the language to you, Liv?
No, it's not. I mean, maybe it's because I'm being dead.
No, I see. Yeah,
I'm
it is
sorry.
kind of, it is. It just says referrals from parents, students. And I'm sure that Vincent would like to recommend some of his compatriots for some advanced learning.
And that would be the students coming to the counselor and saying, you know what, I think I need a little, or their teacher and saying, I need a little more here, but we can put self-referral in parentheses if that makes
That
it
would make
clear.
more sense to me.
And I would assume that it's the parents of the student. So parents of the student
Right.
and self-referral from the student. That's a good catch, just to make it clear. Any other notes, questions, or concerns? All right, hearing none, we'll table this and revisit it at our next meeting. And the final policy for tonight is the first read of policy number 6172.1, Gifted and Talented Students Program.
Right, so this is not a new policy. This is a revised policy. All of the everything that's been stricken was stricken by the state as part of the legislative session. The gist is that, yes, we are responsible, for identifying gifted and talented students. They must be referred through an IEP, through the planning and placement team process. We have to have criteria that we use to assess and identify those students, and we do have that in place. We've had it for a long time. And we are not, schools, I shouldn't say we, but schools may identify those students, but they are not required to provide special programming for those students. So a lot of times the way these cases are handled is very much on a case-by-case basis. And we did have these cases at Salisbury Central where a student would have extraordinarily high cognitive capability, more than a great deal more than the average, and had tested and met the criteria, but the parents felt that developmentally it was not right for them to be identified. They didn't even want their students identified. I've had parents who have wanted their students identified, but did not want any special programming for them. Wanted their students identified, but definitely had them participate in SOAR and lots of other extracurricular. So that's why I do understand that why this is handled on a case-by-case basis. And you don't want to create a barrier of, this is our gifted and talented program, and the only way you can get into it is if you test into this, because then it leaves the rest of the students feeling like they are at a deficit in some capacity. So I think that's why the state chooses to handle this issue in the way that it does. But everything that we do in our district right now is very much in compliance with what's in this policy, even as amended.
Thank you, Lisa. Any other concerns or questions about this policy as amended? Hearing none, we will move on and revisit this at our next meeting. Thank you very much, everyone. And we move on to our administrative reports. Miss Major.
Okay, well, we got the exciting hiring news out.
Exciting stuff out of the way, yeah.
Let's see. I'm just thinking of what I want to highlight here. So we are sort of feeling like we're getting to the wrapping up of our professional learning. And I felt like this last half day was one of our most successful of the year. We had an alternating schedule so that one group was working on diversity, equity, and inclusion in doing case studies with Carolyn Corrado, who, as you know, is our consultant this year. And they got to really dig in. You know, they've been learning, they've been doing chapter studies, having roundtable discussions, articles. But this time they were given scenarios and then, you know, really in small groups had to work through, you know, what's the bias here? How would you react? All sorts of, you know, questions, and then obviously be able to come back together and share. Not that there's a right or wrong answer, but what would be the best ways to handle certain things. At the same time, a different group was with me. I led one session and John and Tracy led the other, where we were doing concept mapping. And what that really looks like is we were trying to take our habits of work, perseverance, and, you know, listening, those kinds of things, and put them together with the 16 habits of mind that we're really trying to move towards using and the regional portrait of a graduate and the areas of the teacher evaluation document, specifically for instruction. So how it looked was everybody was in groups and they were given little stacks of paper, you know, and then they would be like, don't give us more. No, don't give us more. I mean, they were just kidding, but I was, you know, more and more I was layering on, and then they were trying to create a vision of how do all these things intersect, and how does that go to show us that they really are not different things, but all the same thing, so that we can feel like we're doing less. You know, instead of always it's more and more and more, it's really all the same, you know, goal in the end. So they first mapped it all out, and it was interesting to see the different ways that they went about it. And then the added layer was that they were supposed to create this in a 3D map. So they were given a set of materials, all the same: string, scissors, masking tape, straws, toothpicks, little cups, and they couldn't get more materials, and they couldn't add materials. So it just was really, it was, you know, really educational and good for us philosophically to think of these things, and then had that added team building approach. And then we gallery walked and saw all of everyone else's. And you know, leave it to Kristen Neary to be wearing the thing on her head as a hat, a concept mapping hat, and somebody else's, I don't know how in such a short time, because we had about an hour and 15 minutes or so, but they made it so that it expanded almost like a slinky, and all the cups stacked into each other, and then you'd pull it up and all the different habits were lined, but they'd go back together. Anyway, it was just so rewarding, and it set us up to do the work that we need to do in our leadership team, which is to really kind of look at what is going to be our foundation. And I believe we have landed in Portrait of a Graduate sort of being the place we're going to let everything stem from, and recreate our recognition tickets and our sort of system of that. But we knew that everyone had had a piece of it because we all did this activity together, and we have a lot more work to do this summer, but it was a great way to begin, and it was fun. And then speaking of fun, we ended with a fun activity where, you know, Climate had come and said, can we take a small portion of our professional learning and do something just to kind of bring people together, because it's been so many months of not really being together. So we had Matt Janko give us a sample of PE class, and that was useful. In one way, it was just supposed to be fun, but the other way was that, you know, if you think about it, a classroom teacher is very removed from what do they really do in gym, and why does that then come into the classroom after with all this, you know, who tagged who or who didn't this, or, you know, some of those things. So we played, he tiered it. So we began with what younger students play, and then we went all the way up to what older students play, and we did samples of each. And we got really sweaty because it was one of those hot afternoons, but we hit each other with pool noodles, playing boffer tag, and we played the one where you have to, I forget what it's called, but you have to pull scarves that are tucked into your waist. And then we ended by doing going back into the gym, where we had to play a game on scooters, and you have to scoot yourself around and try to make goals, and you have a little stick. And I just wish, I mean, I know we have some pictures in some video, but if you could have seen this, like, we're falling off and we're hitting each other in the face. And I mean, it was just like good old fun and learning what the kids really do in PE. It was excellent. So we left, this was our last traditional professional learning day, and it felt so good. And I was glad about that. So we did that the 11th, and then a week later, we had an hour long, what would normally be our faculty meeting time. And as you can see, we did the lead team meeting because we wanted to keep that close to use the concept mapping. We had sort of this last piece of our diversity, equity, inclusion, which is some videos and a reflection component that people can do individually. Not last piece forever, last piece, of course, for this year. And then we also had the preventative solutions man, Johnny T, who was here with our students teaching the, better choices in drugs and alcohol. He did a session for staff. So we had a lot happening in that hour. And then, you already had seen an outline for our June days, where we'll be doing a lot of that vertical planning and transitioning. But it's felt very productive and enthusiastic, which is great. At this time of year, people can be kind of tired, but I feel like we've got a lot of energy for this work right now. Let's see, the testing is finishing up. We're on our very last couple students who might have missed days of the SBAC, and they have to, finish. because they were out, but otherwise the generalized SBAC and NGSS testing is complete. We are now beginning spring FastBridge assessments, and we'll have, we won't have SBAC information for you in June, but we'll have FastBridge information for you in June. We are planning those transitional meetings, and at those meetings, we bring in, so fourth grade teachers will be there with fifth grade teachers, and they will be able to talk about the skills and the progress and the scores and the social emotional needs, everything of every student in the class directly to the fifth grade teachers. It's tricky to make the time, but we have figured out how to do it with a very convoluted schedule, but it's time well spent because literally no one can fall through the cracks when we do it face to face like that. And we have, I have emails set to send to invite our new teachers to join for these meetings pending their approval tonight. So I assume that most of them will be able to be with us too. Let's see, I will not read them to you, but you can see the excitement that we have trips. Trips are back, and that also feels so good. I don't know if Patty feels so good about it because it's suddenly a whole lot of work on the office end and buses and things that she hasn't had to do, but we're excited about all the trips that are back, and we have save the dates section there for you, starting with the concert that is this Thursday night. Let's see. Well, this is a lot one this time. Let's see. The other thing
you don't have is the Memorial Day Parade on there.
I
Because
don't have that.
our
You're
7th
right.
and 8th graders, I believe, are planning on participating
They are, for sure.
in a little parading.
Yes,
So,
they're going to parade, and some of the members of the town band, they're not parade. The people that normally, the adults that normally do it are not doing it this year. So anyone who is interested in marching is going to join us in March. And so it'll be, and also we've got some former students that are come back in March. So that will be that. Yes. Thank you, David. That's a good point.
yeah.
And then that last big table that was on the last page, that is just to show you, I had told you way back, and you probably have put it out of your mind, but those 3 areas were our focuses for our strategic plan this year: portrait of a graduate, the diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then our data management and our tiers of support. So not that we didn't do lots of things, but those were our 3 focus areas. And so this table just shows a summary of progress that we feel like we made in each of the areas, and then next steps. I think that we've done a lot with the data, but we have a lot more to do. The diversity, equity, inclusion feels I feel the strongest in that. Like we have a really solid system with Carolyn and just the different approaches that we've used. So I feel like we're on a good path there. And the portrait of a graduate, I feel like, to me, we've really just started that work. And now the lead team will, as I said, progress through the summer, and next year I think will really be a bigger year for us. We didn't get to as much of that this year as I thought that we would. But I do think we've done a lot of things. And then I guess I should just note, we had a super staff appreciation week, and you could certainly take way more than a week to appreciate our staff, but it was fun and had a lot of positivity. And, it is amazing what something simple like, just a bottle of iced tea or whatever really just raises people's spirits. And it's important to remember that it is the little things. So that's all that I have to say, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Steph. Any questions or concerns? Hearing none, thank you very much, Ms. Major. We'll move on to our superintendent of schools, Ms. Lisa Carter.
Okay, so hi again. So I start with our COVID report. And as you know, if you've been watching the news or reading the paper, that COVID has been pretty widespread throughout the state. And while the numbers today, I think, was down to 12, it had been inching up over 14%. Those numbers are grossly understated because of the amount of home testing that's occurring. And it's just pervasive throughout the state. Last month, I think we had 53 cases. This month, we'll easily have double that. However, when I look at the patterns, it's even hard to know right now if there's in-school transmission, except that we don't see these explosions. Like if a student has it in 3rd grade, that the whole 3rd grade is out. What we're still seeing is that it starts in a family and goes through the household. And once it starts with one family member, our families have been very conservative and good about keeping those people home so that family becomes isolated from our communities. And I think that's what's keeping our schools from having wide community spread. Last week, we did come close in a couple of our schools to having a number of teachers out to the extent that we were worried about keeping school open, but our teachers held it together with gum and baling wire, and we managed to get through the week. And this week, while it's only Monday, the number of cases is significantly less today than it has been in previous Mondays. So I hate to make one data point a trend, but we're hoping. Let's see. I did visit, had the great pleasure of visiting all of our schools in April. And I can say that I think that while our schools have been fantastic throughout the pandemic, in April, I really felt tons of super positive energy. Like, even though COVID is still here, and I think we all are accepting that. There's one of the colleagues on the administrative staff that we always used to talk about BC being before COVID and AC being after COVID. And what we've decided on now is we are just WC with COVID. And that will be part of our lives, and we're learning how to live with it. And I'm feeling like that's really taking hold in our schools. Like, we can do this, we got this, it's not so scary anymore. And it feels much more positive. And not that it was negative before, but everybody understandably there was always this freeze-on of anxiety, which seems to be dissipating. So that was very encouraging. And I just love my visits. They're always great. And I saw fantastic writing samples. I heard eloquent classroom speaking. I saw some phenomenal math classes where students were really digging in and taking those problems apart and really getting to the conceptual framework of math. And that was in I think a 5th or a 6th grade class. So those new programs that we've been, introducing, you're really seeing that blend of the conceptual with the operational, which was wonderful to see. Then the Troutbeck Symposium, I can't say enough about that. And I know that Salisbury Central did not have a chance to participate. A lot of schools were too busy with so many of the other exciting things that they're doing, but the high school really grabbed onto it. And I'm just going to talk about their project for a minute because it was so outstanding. It was, to go to the way that this whole concept came up was Pete Vermillier and I got an email from Rona McCrisky, who is his history teacher over at Salisbury School. And he said, can you get together for a cup of coffee? I have this idea. So he talked to us, and his kids had made documentary films about the Black history in this part of the world the year before. And he said, I was just looking at some other local history and I landed on the Spingarn family and the Troutbeck Inn. And did you know that they were the center for the NAACP Armenia conferences and for gatherings of the Harlem Renaissance? And wouldn't this be great for our kids to really dig into this history? And we would involve every school in the Northwest corner that wanted to join. And we said, yeah, sure, count us in. And so a lot of great work was done. But what I'm really proud about for our kids was ours was so authentic. They took that sign that's there on the road and looked at its reference to, very esteemed, but very much members of the dominant culture who are Thoreau, and I can't remember everybody who's on that sign, who have spent time at the Troutbeck Inn. And they have designed 4 or 5 signs that are much more inclusive, and they're proposing them to the authorities. So it may be that our sign gets to replace the sign that's there. And I just loved that. I loved that project. And then Sharon Center School did a very nice job with a Langston Hughes poem made into a mini documentary video. And Jill's here. So Jill, you want to say a couple words about that?
Sure. Yeah, our 8th grade students in Sharon took, oh my gosh, the name of the poem is escaping me, but they, each of them took a line or two and did a response to that line in artwork and painting, and they documented the whole process and made a really lovely documentary film of the work that they did, and then they recorded the students reading the poems, so that voiceover carried over through the documentary. It was super cool. Yeah, they were really proud of themselves, and the experience of attending the Trek Symposium was just unbelievably powerful. I mean, what an amazing opportunity for the kids. So very cool.
Yeah, it was just student after student after student. Hotchkiss, Salisbury, our school, Litchfield. It was quite a remarkable day, 2 days actually. So we are trying to think about how can we extend that work to make it sort of part of what we do in looking at a much more authentic view of our local history, a much more inclusive view of our local history. I don't think I have a whole lot else to say about my report, other than I think it's all pretty self-explanatory. So I've talked a long time here, so I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions for Ms. Carter? I call you Dr. Carter.
No, I'm not.
I will just say, and I'll deny it if you repeat this, but that Ron McCrisky is a subtle genius.
Yeah, I've known and worked with him for a long time. I do think he's quite lovely and great.
A kind and gentle soul too. Thank you very much, Lisa. Ms. Pace, Dr. Fellows.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Let's start this evening by just speaking about two things. First, I'm not sure how many of you were able to click into the EL report from Selena Huber, but I did tell her that I would mention at all of this month's board meetings. One aspect of that, which is that after a year away during last year's school year, students at the high school have returned to taking the test for the seal of biliteracy, which is an emblem that can be affixed on a student's diploma, indicating that they have that skill. They are biliterate. And so we had students taking the assessment this year in both Spanish and French. And that is exciting because we're glad to have that coming back. So in case you didn't see that in her report, I just wanted to draw your attention to that. It's something we did prior to the pandemic, and are certainly happy to be returning to that effort. So hooray for that. And the other thing that I will highlight briefly is the summer programming. You know that Salisbury was our gracious host last year, and this year they'll be hosting that program at North Canaan Elementary School. We have about 120 students at this point signed up to attend. That doesn't mean everyone's attending every week, but we have a good enrollment, and we are so thankful for the generous support of the Berkshire Taconic Community Foundation, who are, helping us ensure that we can get everyone there with transportation. And our enrichment program, new this year for middle school students being held at the high school, is right now, I actually just saw there's 5 more students who signed up today, and I didn't check their grades. So we are either right at our cap number of 40 or just below it. So that for a first go is certainly exciting, and we are really happy to have that on offer, and excited to get it underway in really just a couple of weeks, actually. Scott?
Thanks, Jill. I will talk about just one of the things that's in our report, and hopefully, well, you might be hopefully thinking this is good, the last time that I'll mention the continuum of professional practice. So it is finished. It actually has gone through PDEC, so they have approved it, and we will begin implementation of that rubric as our definition of effective teaching for student learning in Region 1. So again, we're going to use it everywhere. It's going to become our language about describing instruction, describing assessment, describing planning, describing classroom environment. And it was a very, very smooth PDEC meeting because of the way we worked this process, I think, so that people were involved in the revisions. They saw versions of the revisions as time went by. And so when they got the final draft, none of it was a surprise. And it led to the kinds of activities that Stephanie described earlier, where we're trying now to help people see the interconnections between that document, the portrait of the graduate document, and even some of the discipline-specific standards. So for example, when working with the math teachers, Amy had us not only concept map the CPP and the portrait of the graduate, but also include the standards for mathematical practice as part of that mapping, so that we can see like that, again, everything is going everywhere. So that's, I think, the only thing that I'll highlight this month. And of course, Jill and I will take any questions.
Anybody? Hearing nothing. Thank you very much, Jill and Scott. And we are moving on to what we anticipate to be an executive session for the purpose of discussing the principal's contract. I would entertain a motion to enter into that session, and I would suggest that we perhaps invite our esteemed superintendent of schools, Miss Lisa Carter.
Propose.
Yes. Do I have a second? Thank you, Jackie. All those in favor of entering into an executive session to discuss the principal's contract, say aye. Inviting in Miss Lisa Carter. Abstaining? Opposed? Thank you very much. We'll see you guys in a minute. I'm assuming Sue's going to make the magic happen. Yes.
How do we get there?
So you may want to pause the recording before you go.
So coming out of our executive session at 7:39 p.m., I believe that one of our board members would like to make a motion regarding the principal's compensation.
Regarding the principal's compensation, I'd like to make the motion that we extend the contract through the 2024-25 academic year. We increase the annual base salary from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023 by 3% to $141,363. And we increase the contribution to the 403B annuity by 0.5% to 2.0%.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Tom. Jackie, thank you, everybody. Any further discussion? All those in favor of arranging the agreement between the Board of Education and Stephanie Major as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you very much. Congratulations, Steph. I hope that's in keeping with your wishes.
That's fantastic. Thank you all.
Great. Thank you. Now I would entertain a motion to enter into an executive session to discuss the assistant principal's compensation for the coming school year. And I would suggest that we invite in Ms. Major, Ms. Carter, and Ms. Buccieri to guide us through that discussion. Do I have such a motion? Thank you, Kevin. Second, Tom, thank you very much. All those in favor of entering into executive session, inviting in Ms. Carter, Ms. Major, Ms. Buccieri to discuss the assistant principal's contract, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you very much. How do you get us out of it if you're in it?
Like hyperspace.
Hyperspace. Hyperdrive.
Can we use the same breakout room or no?
I don't
Yeah,
see
you
why.
can. Sure.
It's just us engines.
Just have to add you and Stephanie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she and Stephanie are the ones that ended up there.
You make this.
That's true.
So can you guys just join the breakout room again? Or do I have to send?
Oh, yes, we can.
Can we?
There's a little thing on your menu down on the lower bar there. If you, and it says join breakout room. I'm going to try.
Well, I don't have that.
I don't
Yeah.
even- Oh, there we go.
Where is it?
Yeah, click the three
Down
dots.
on-
that says
if-
more.
On the
Bottom
same,
right, more. Join break.
We're returning from an executive. We're returning from an executive session at 8:13 p.m. And I do believe that one of our members would like to make a motion.
Right, I will make a motion for the assistant principal's contract. First, that we extend the administrative contract through the 2024-2025 academic year. That we increase the administrative salary from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023 by 3% to $75,030. And that we make a 1.5% contribution of the administrative salary to the 403B annuity.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everyone. Any further discussion? All those in favor of compensating the assistant principal for the 22-23 school year as stated and extending the contract term through 24-25, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you very much. I don't know if it's appropriate for Stephanie or Lisa to inform John formally of that.
I think that's probably me.
Okay. Will you do this for us?
I will do this for you.
Thank you very much. And I believe that we are at the point in our meeting where I would entertain any public comment on agenda items. Hearing none, I would certainly entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Natalia. Thank you, Jackie, for a second. Thank you, everyone, for your work tonight. I'm sorry it went a little long. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Abstain-
Sue, I'm sorry.
Yeah, hold on.
Sue, would you send me the motion for the, John, please? Thank you. Sorry.
Remember our next regular meeting, I think is going to be again a Zoom meeting, and that's June 27th. Finishing up the school year and doing a couple other important things.
I'm sorry.
Thank
Can
you.
I ask a question?
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, I'm late.
Yeah.
Did you vote to approve those people that whose stuff came up for jobs next year?
Yes, everybody was all the recommendations to hire were approved. Yes,
So that's public now.
Yes.
it is. Yes, technically public now. So if you knew somebody that might have been affected by it, you could certainly share that with
Great.
them. All right.
News is broken.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
everybody. Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Bye.
Bye.